Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Speakeasy Project. I'm Jeremy, and it's good to see everybody this morning. Just getting that adjusted a little bit. Good to see you pop in just for a second, Jay. What a great profile picture, by the way. Is that you getting out some drums in the smoke? It's pretty good. I like that. This heat is nuts. Yeah, since I'm doing the free version of StreamYard, it only gives it only it only gives like 6 options for the music, and 5 of them are like slow and boring and sleepy. So that one, there's like that one and one other one that's like bearable, but they both absolutely sound like techno club music. Good to see you morning. Good to see you this morning, Clarabelle, Colleen. Good to see you. Oh, that's nice. Where are you? Like, are you at home or are you like traveling? It was good, Rick. I do too. I hope that everybody had a enjoyable weekend. I hope that some of y'all got Friday off as well. Let's kind of couple that, get a little long weekend rocking. I was it was crazy yesterday. Actually, I mean not crazy, but like I don't know. I spent most of the morning working the pit, getting all the meat ready for the afternoon. I did a bunch of racks of ribs. I did some pulled pork, all that good stuff. So anyway, just was working yesterday a little bit, and then so we. I feel like there's something on my eye. Anyway, all right. We went over to some family's house and swam and hung out, and I got to play with my little nephews yesterday, which was always fun. So they're not little anymore, so now it's like they're teenagers, and so they suck the ever loving life out of me. When I get in the pool with them, there's a basketball goal, and it is on from the time I set foot in the pool. But it's fun. Okay, yeah, I knew you were from there. I didn't know if maybe because my understanding is it's like hot everywhere. Like I even got friends in Canada who were like, it is hot here right now, which is absolutely insane. It was like 108. One of my friends in Canada the other day, and I was like, what? So I was thinking maybe you were abroad or something, but that's great. New York State. That's good. Ugh. Well, so let me ask you this, and I don't mean this to sound ignorant by any stretch, but I know this is true in a lot of places that stay cooler consistently. Do you have a heater but no air conditioner? Because like in Colorado, that's a thing. Like up in the mountains, there's some places they just don't put air conditioners in because it stays cool enough most of the time that you don't need it. Good night. Little shifty shift in the weather. So anyway, I'm curious about this in the Baston area. If they, or if it's just that hot that like the air conditioner cannot keep up, which I get, being on the third floor, heat rising. It just rained. It just rained like crazy here last night. I mean, stormed like big thunderstorms last night. See, I've heard this. I've heard that like it's a different kind of heat, but I don't know. I think all heat is bad. I don't like any of it. And then you go to these places where they're like, like desert climates or whatever. They're like, it's dry heat. And I'm like, no, it still feels like death. Oh, yeah, that's part of the Smithsonian line of museums, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Central heat, but no central AC. Yeah. Yeah. I was genuinely curious about that. That is not surprising. In Oklahoma, most places are central heat and air just because it does get so hot and stay so hot in the summer. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, and you say those are really expensive. They're actually all really expensive. So, like, all of the apartments are really expensive. Those are just really expensive. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah, Santa Fe. Santa Fe is incredible. That's a great city. Um, and the weather is generally fantastic. It's kind of like San Diego, like I could never afford to live there, but the weather is unbelievable. That's kind of crazy. The heat off the computers that's wild. All right. It is good to see everybody this morning. Glad that we're going to spend a little time together today. I hope that you did have an enjoyable weekend, or are concluding an enjoyable weekend. Um, Rick's your guy. He is he is like a founding member of the Geek Squad. I'm pretty sure. Like so he is very savvy with the techs. And I'm somebody who feels pretty confident about what I'm doing. But then I get to talking to Rick and I'm like, you know what? I don't know that much. So anywho. Rick is ready to support. All right, we're going to be in Luke chapter 14 today. We're going to be in Luke chapter 14. We're going to be looking at verses, well, probably 10 through 14. Yeah, 10 through 14. Luke 14, verses 10 through 14. And I may read a couple of verses before that, just to kind of give some context. But we'll really kind of be looking at verses 10 through 14, just kind of as the conversation topic. So, all right. Yeah, Luke chapter 14, 10 through 14. I'm going to start reading in 7, but that's just kind of to give some context. Okay. So I'm going to start there. It says talking about Jesus here, went on to tell a story to the guests around the table. Noticing how each had tried to elbow into the place of honor, he said, so this is really interesting. This is fascinating. This is happening in real time. Jesus is watching people try to get into the spot of honor. In other words, the place directly to the right of Jesus. Okay. When someone invites you to dinner, so Jesus says after he had watched them try to elbow themselves into this place, he said, he just starts speaking. And this is one of my favorite things about Jesus is it's like he is always directly responding to what's happening, but he's never like directly talking about it. It is probably some of the best things that he offers because the parables and the storytelling is second to none. So Jesus constantly is just always like, he's addressing the current situation, but he's never like talking about that situation. And it's always interesting to watch Jesus, teaching these parables and things like that. Anyway, just kind of fascinating how Jesus was always so quick with that. So he goes into this story. He said, when someone invites you to dinner, don't take the place of honor. Somebody more important than you might have been invited by the host. Then he'll come and call out in front of everybody, you're in the wrong place. The place of honor belongs to this man. Embarrassed, you have to take your way to the very last table, the only place left. When you're invited to go to dinner, Jesus is like, by the way, when you're invited to go to dinner, go sit at the last place. Then when the host comes, he may very well say, friend, come sit up at the front. That will give the dinner guests something to talk about. What I'm saying is, if you walk around all high and mighty, you're going to end up flat on your face. But if you're content to simply be yourself, you will become more than yourself. This is Jesus. This is Jesus hitting your mental health and your journey right on the nose. That's what's happening here. Is Jesus saying, look, if you are content to be who you are, if you are content to be who you were designed to be, if you're content to be the person that you are, then you can be more than that. But if you try to pretend that you're more than that, you are going to be leveled down often. Then he turned to the host. The next time you put on a dinner, don't just invite your friends and family and rich neighbors, the kind of people who will return the favor. Invite some people who never get invited out, the misfits from the wrong side of the tracks. You'll be and experience a blessing. They won't be able to return the favor, but the favor will be returned. Oh, how it will be returned at the resurrection of God's people. It's really interesting that Jesus takes this moment, right, to be like, he speaks to a couple of points here. First, he speaks to those who are invited to this get together. And he's like, hey, why don't you go sit over there and just be cool being yourself? And then if you have the opportunity to be elevated past that, then cool. But just be content with being who you are. And don't try to showboat. Don't try to be something more. And then he's speaking to those who like host these kind of get-togethers. He's like, look, why don't you quit inviting all of your rich friends, right? Quit doing the Bruce Wayne thing, right? He's like, invite the people who never get invited. Eugene Peterson translates this, invite people from the wrong side of the tracks. Which actually, to be fair, an interesting choice of phrase here by Eugene Peterson. And some people would say that was flippant and just using a phrase, but I think it was almost intentional in this spot. And if you listen to, in the time when Eugene Peterson was alive, if you listen to interviews about, his writing of the message and things like that, then you'll understand that was probably very intentional use of the phrase. Because a lot of times that phrase historically has been used to talk about racial divides in towns. And so I think that there was some intention in using that phrase and talking more about unity and talking more about connection and talking more about diversity at the table than even what it is on its face. Because I don't think that this was just randomly chosen. But Jesus goes on to tell these people that would be putting on these, these illustrious dinner parties. He's saying, look, you will be a blessing to people if you choose to be proactive in inviting people that don't get invited. And I think what really is happening here is Jesus is speaking to the grander thing. And he does go on to talk about this in verse 15 on down to 34. But Jesus is actually talking about the bigger picture here. He's not just talking specifically about these kind of gatherings. He's not specifically talking about dinner parties. He's talking about a way of life. What he's really challenging is the way that we think about ourselves and the way that we think about others. He's really challenging us on our face to remember that, you know what, we don't need to force ourselves into a place of honor. We don't need to fight for a place of honor. We need to fight for others to have that place. What Jesus is really saying here is he's saying elevate the marginalized. That's what Jesus is really saying here. Jesus is really challenging people, including those who would be the rich and the who's who are throwing these kind of parties, to be people who care about others who may not even quote unquote belong there. And I think in our current culture and our current climate, this is a beautiful understanding of what we should be and how we should be interacting with the people around us. See, I think too often, friends, we subconsciously worry about our status. And Jesus is directly speaking to that heart. He's saying, don't worry about your status. Just be who you are. Don't fight for status. Don't try to elevate yourself. Don't try to be something that you're really not. Just be who you are. And be somebody who is willing to create diversity and create inclusion and create hope and create love in those spaces where so often people are trying to fight to look and seem more important than they are. Because it happens in both directions, right? I mean, you think about this analogy that Jesus is laying out. He's saying, look, whether you be the person that's invited and you're trying to elevate yourself, or whether you be the person that's inviting and you're trying to bring as many who's into the room as you possibly can, what if we started thinking about it in reverse? What if we really started challenging ourselves to be humble and meek in these settings? What if we started to seek out giving hope and peace and status for those that, who don't necessarily, quote unquote, culturally belong in those places? There is no way that you can ever convince me that anything looks like the heart of Jesus if it isn't about inclusion, if it isn't about diversity, if it isn't about humility, if it isn't about the least of these. And unfortunately, this is very much the opposite of what not just American evangelical culture is like, but it's also just very the opposite of what American culture in general right now is like. See, the gospel is a call to last place. It is not a call of elevation of status. It's a call of demotion of status. And this is one of the prime examples, one of these stories that we just don't look at or think of very much when we think about the teachings of Jesus. It's not one of those popular ones that we constantly hear about or talk about or whatever the case is. It's not one of those stories, but it is a story that is a beautiful example of what our walk in Christ should look like and who and how we should be interacting with the people around us. This is in direct this is the antithesis of what the culture tells us now. It's the direct opposite. It's about how much status we can gain, how important we can become, how high we can elevate ourselves, how many important people we can surround ourselves with. Who's the coolest person in your phone? I've actually, I think when I was doing content full time, which by the way, I've gotten on Threads the last couple of days and started to do some content again, just because I think part of me wants to start pushing back on some of this again, and I'm just reminded how misguided so many are in what the true teachings of Jesus are. But I remember when I was doing like a lot of interviews and podcasts and things like that, I would occasionally be asked that, oh, it seems like you were interacting with such and such creator, or, it looks like so-and-so follows you. Like, I had a couple of people ask me literally this question: who's the coolest contact in your phone? Number one, it's not that impressive. Okay. Let's just be real clear. Secondly, it's not like I have, there's levels, right? Like anybody I'm really excited to be able to have like direct contact with is like not that cool, right? Comparatively, like I don't have Obama in my phone, like, I mean, it's not like that. But I just always found that really fascinating, that it was like, ooh, tell us the people that you're really connected with, and it's like, to me, that always seemed counterintuitive to what we should believe, because it was like, well, but what about just the people? What about the person that has direct contact, that was just hurt and broken and left the church and just needed something safe? I think those are the things that I take most important. But the culture would say something very opposite. And it's always been that way. It's not like this is a new mentality, right? Like this didn't just creep up in the last 30 years. Like this is a thing that has always been a thing. Who do you know? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's all of this stuff, right? And it's all about building, a network and like all of this kind of thing. And it's all about like, can I be can I be found in a room full of, really important people and have a voice at that table and like all of those kinds of things? Jesus is saying, you know what? Don't worry about any of that. Don't seek any of that. Don't be about any of that. Be somebody who just honestly cares about having a servant's heart. Being with people. Yeah, I love this, and it's one of those moments where Jesus is saying something that feels really countercultural, but is also like, you see times when Jesus puts this into action, right? Where Jesus is literally engaging with people like a Zacchaeus, for example, a tax collector, the sinners, the tax collectors, the people that wanted nothing to do with that person. Like they found them to be kind of the lowest of the low. Those are the people that Jesus was like, come down from there. He's telling Zacchaeus, get out of the tree, right? I'm coming to your house. We're going to have dinner together, right? I'm coming to your house as your guest. He's elevating the status of somebody who had no status, who was looked down upon, right? So it's not that Jesus just taught these things. Jesus did these things. And even and it wasn't just Jesus showing that he was doing these things. Even Jesus's enemies said these things, right? Like there were times throughout the Gospels when when the religious elite and the leaders of the day were like, who is this man that eats with sinners and tax collectors, right? Like, it is like the greatest compliment, and they think it is. They think it is a bug, not a feature, right? Like they think it's bad that he's doing this, and Jesus is literally like saying, like he's literally saying, you should do this, and he's doing it, and they're like, who is this guy? You know, I love that. Insert meme here. But yeah, we should be people of service, be people of humility, be people of kindness and grace. We should be people who are sitting with the least of these. We should find ourselves at the quote unquote kids table, right? Like the place, the smallest place of honor, not the biggest one. Yeah, this is really good, right? Yeah. Yeah, success is what we've done compared to what we were made to do. Yeah. Yeah. See, we were designed to be, and we are called to be people of grace and connection. We are called to be people of humility and hope. And this is a beautiful reminder. Jesus using this moment that he finds himself in to encourage everyone around him that you need to take yourself down a few rungs, and you need to be more about people who have no place at the table. You need to offer them a place there. You need to give them a seat. You need to give them a voice. See, the table full of elites and influencers and icons is the table that Jesus would flip. But the table of diversity and equality and hope is the one that Jesus would take the last seat at. And with that in mind, should we not be the same? Should we not be people who are seeking to give a voice to the voiceless? Should we not be people who are seeking to give hope to the hopeless and give status to those who are less than? Should we not be seeking to add those voices and those people to those seats from different walks of life and different places and from the other side of the tracks, as Eugene Peterson would say here? See, we should be desiring to bring grace and peace and love. This is hard to do. Make no mistake, friends, this is challenging. And And the reason for that is because I feel like we get it in our brain that if we're not doing the normal thing, or we're not seeking status, or we're not seeking elevation, or we're not seeking a better place, or we're not seeking more we're not seeking more uh, status in our groups and the people that we surround ourselves with. If we're not doing that, then we ourselves are being countercultural. We feel like here's the real thing. We feel like we are missing opportunities. We feel like maybe we won't get that promotion at work, or we won't build those relationships that we need to elevate our social status, or to elevate our political status, or our family status, or whatever the case is, right? But can I just tell you this, that these opportunities are the ones that come and go. These are the things that die quickly. These are the things that don't really matter at the end of the day. The thing that truly matters is the opportunity to be people of equality and diversity and love. Those are the things that matter. Building our own name and our own kingdom is really just vanity. And that's really what Jesus says here. He says, just be content to simply be yourself. That's how you become something more. That's how you become something more. It's just simply be yourself. Be somebody who gives and serves and loves. And that is how you become something greater. And that is how that something greater lasts. Sure, you can spend time building your own name and your own brand, but it only matters so much. And it only lives for so long. Grace and peace and diversity and love, those things far outlast our personal existence. And those are the things, those are the pieces, those are the characteristics that we pour into that become more than ourselves. Jesus was definitely all about raising up the forgotten. There's a lot of people standing at intersections asking for money and help. I don't know, a lot of Christians just drive by and pay no mind. I feel like those are the people that Jesus would be elevating and helping. If I have a few bucks to give it, I give it. I don't care what they use it for, because I'm called to help, not judge. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think there's, I think that's one of the best lessons I ever learned. I was with with a guy that I was doing an internship with when I was really young, going early into my career, like 17 or 18 years old. Um, and he stopped and he gave this guy some money for lunch. And I just kind of regurgitated the thing that I had heard so many times, man, why are you giving him money? Like you know, he's either going to use that for, something nefarious, or um, he's going to go take that to his Lexus that he's got parked behind the building, that kind of thing or whatever. And I just remember the challenge out of that was, it's not my job. It's not my job to judge his heart. It's just my job to have a good heart. And this is exactly what you're saying here, Rick. It's like, look, if somebody is doing that out of malice or, you know, not necessity, right? Then that's theirs to answer. Mine is just to answer and how I give and how I serve my fellow humans. And so really all that matters in that place was my heart good? Did I give of myself willingly? Did I give of myself freely? Did I give with the right heart and with the right intentions of just blessing somebody and giving them a hopeful step up, right? And that's stuck with me for a long time, forever probably, because I just think, wow, it is not my job to judge or to evaluate their intentions or their heart. It is just my job to be in control of mine and to do well with mine. So I think that's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And I think sadly, if Jesus were to walk into a church in America on any given Sunday at 11 o'clock, people would not meet him where he was with good faith. They would judge what he wore. They would judge what he was saying. They would judge the way he interacted. They would judge the way he looked. I mean, somebody asked me the other day, what do you think? Uh, what do you think that the church would even do if Jesus walked in off the street today? And I said, in the United States right now, they'd probably call ICE. That'd probably be step one. You know, that's a little tongue in cheek, but not really. But I certainly don't think that they would elevate him to a place of honor. I certainly don't think that they would listen to his words and try to hear those and understand who he is. I don't think they would ask good faith questions and try to learn and understand. Yeah, exactly. I only laugh to keep from crying. I legitimately think so. It would not shock me in the least. There's some Meemaw on her cell phone right now trying to figure out if he's legit. No, I 1,000% agree. Yeah. Because we have gotten obsessed. And this is this is what this is really about. We have become obsessed with our earthly kingdom, whether that mean the country that we are a part of, whether that mean the personal kingdom that we've created, whether that means the kingdom of influence that we've surrounded ourselves with. We have become really obsessed with our personal kingdom and our earthly kingdom that we create in our image, right? But that is not the gospel. Yeah. This is only for members. Yeah. And that's what Jesus is really saying here. He's saying invest in a different kind of kingdom. Don't invest in your personal kingdom. Don't invest in your influential kingdom. Don't invest in your country's kingdom. Don't invest in your connection kingdom. Don't invest in any of these things. Invest in the kingdom. Invest in love. Invest in grace. Invest in diversity. Invest in hope. Invest in humility and grace and compassion. Invest in those things. Invest in the things that truly matter to the heart of God and to the kingdom of God. Bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. Bring the kingdom of heaven to the least of these. Bring the kingdom of heaven to your space. And in turn, you will become something more than yourself. That's what Jesus is really saying here. What he's really challenging us to is investing in a kingdom that is not our own and investing in a kingdom that is eternal. We are investing in something that lasts, something that has always been there. What we are doing is literally the action of what happens in the Lord's Prayer, right? Let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is on earth right now, as it is in heaven. So what would it look like at the dinner table of the Lord? It should look like your dinner table. And if it doesn't, you have failed. And I think that is a really big challenge and something that we need to constantly think about. Anyway, all right, that's what I got for you this morning, friends. I hope that y'all have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. I hope that this week is not too crazy. Yeah, is at hand, literally. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I hope that you have a good rest of your Sunday, a restful rest of your Sunday. I appreciate you coming and be a part this morning. Don't forget midweek. Midweek is happening over the next well, not over the next. It is happening on Tuesday and Wednesday. I was going to say over the next week. No. Next Tuesday and Wednesday. It's happening Tuesday and Wednesday, 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Come be a part of one, be a part of both, one or all. Rick leads that, does a fantastic job. So come be a part of the midweek chit chat on Tuesday and or Wednesday, 6 Central, 7 Eastern. There's a link that goes out on the Facebook page as well as in the Discord, and it's a Google Meet. So come be a part of that for sure. All right. It is almost noon here, almost 1 on the East. So without further ado, I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day. I love you. Love God. Love people passionately. No strings attached. And build a kingdom that matters. So, all right. I love y'all. I'll see you next week.